Hey, what's up, you guys? My name is Cybersnowolf, and welcome back to LEGO Arts. Alright, so in the previous episode, we did a showcase on version 1 of Spider-Man Miles Morales from the PS5 game, which is definitely subjected to change. So for this episode, we're getting around to a project that I've been pushing off for about a year now, and that is LEGO Studio Ghibli. So, if you recall from, during the halfway point of the series, I did a teaser, towards the end of the episode, where I was quoting a bunch of these iconic lines from Studio Ghibli films, and for a while, it was something that, stuck in my brain of wanting to do. However, I kept pushing it off with, other projects that were coming up, like God of War, Devil May Cry 5, Ruby Volume 7, and a lot of other stuff. So much so to the point that I was slowly beginning to lose interest, but then when I looked back, and it was just I still want to do this. However, I came to a realization that, I had these plans of doing, a whole bunch of characters from all these different films, but then I realized that, with the amount of characters to do, I don't have enough minifigures to make all of them, and also, it'd be so massive, I would have to divide up into multiple parts, just to keep it from, going over an hour, because generally with these showcases, I don't push them over, an hour. I try to keep it under. So, for now, so I decided for this one to narrow it down to some of the more iconic characters from the movies. So as you can see, we have Chihiro from Spirited Away, San from Princess Mononoke, Howl from Howl's Moving Castle, so Kiki from Kiki's Delivery Service, the Baron from The Cat Returns, and Totoro from My Neighbor Totoro. I do plan to go back and do more Studio Ghibli characters, but for now, these are the main ones that I wanted to do for now. And despite some changes that I make with them, I think in the end they came out pretty good. So, as you guys know the whole drill, we're going to take these minifigures one at a time, do reviewing them, explain my process, why we went with this route, and then go from there. Sorry. So, without further ado, let's get the pedestal out and get the showcase on the road. So starting our showcase off is Chihiro from Spirited Away. This is one of the more simple minifigures that I had to do in this showcase. Okay, so this one and Kiki. So, when first doing this one, I originally thought about giving her two separate outfits, like this one and her second one. However, I was running out of, short legs for minifigs, and I wanted to limit myself on, how much supplies I needed to buy. So, I just decided to just work with what I got, and maybe I'll go back and do her second outfit. But for now, this is the basics for Chihiro. And the whole figure itself is pretty basic as well. As you can see, the torso is base painted in white. I also went back. I also tried to match up with this green stripe, the stripe that goes across. Same thing with the shoulders, but as you can see, it didn't fully work out. That was mostly because with these arms, I can't remove them. I chose to work with a minifigure that the arms were unremovable, unfortunately, which has happened sometimes, and sometimes in the past, and that's why I've learned to work better on different arms. As you can see, with the legs, I painted on the shorts, the skin tone to match up with the rest of the legs, and then the shoes were pretty basic. Only did a little bit of detailing on the front, and then with the front facial decal, I used the same one that I used for Nora Valkyrie from Ruby Volume 7. However, I modified it. I actually had to redraw it completely because I deleted the original one. But this time I just stuck with the basic black eyes. Guys, you can't really see it that well, but I recolored in the lips, and then the small pink dots represent sort of the blush on there. That I find kind of an odd design that's they put onto the character model, but that's okay. And with the hairpiece, this is very basic. This was the earlier versions of Legos. It was ponytail hairpieces. I had a couple of these, and I thought that this just matches up perfectly with what I'm trying to make. So I'll go ahead and use it. So overall, this is a very basic minifigure. In terms compared to the other crazy stuff that I've built in the past. But overall, it's pretty simple. It's pretty basic. There's still articulation. Not really much with the head. But I could still move the arms and stuff. And overall, it was pretty simple and basic to do. So again, I'll probably go back and do her second outfit in the future. But for now, this is Chihiro. So next on our list is Kiki from Kiki's Delivery Service. So keeping up with like the simple figures first before we get to the more detailed ones. So for this one, I was working around the same time that I did Chihiro. Like as you can see, she's got like the same like face decal. I just decided to go ahead and use like the same one for these ones because they both generally have like that smiling and facial expression. So I decided to keep that up. With the hair, I will say that the hair could have turned out differently. It could have turned out differently. At least since I'm limiting myself on like resources to buy, I decided to sculpt out the hairpiece, and I've even tried to using a push pin to like carve out like the lines in the hair, and it's not fully perfect. Like you gotta see this mess on the sides. Could have come out better. Like not just with the clay, but with the paint as well. And speaking of the paint, I tried sculpting out like her hairband bow that she has on. Yeah, that one could have come out a little bit differently, so I could have made some improvements to there. And like with the rest of the figure, again, since the arms were unremovable, I couldn't take them off to do some sanding and stuff. So I had to paint those on around the same time. Some basic blue paint. Painted all around the figure, and then some red shoes, as well. Painted up the arms, and then also the key component with Kiki is her broom. So a while back, one of my friends gifted me like a box of Lego stuff because she was like cleaning out her basement and found like this bin that her kids don't play with anymore. So she gave me like these 2 bins full of Lego parts, and inside them were a few Harry Potter stuff, which included like these broomsticks. And I went back and forth of like which broom to use, like this one or like the janitor broom that she used towards the end of the film. And I even asked my sister, and she said that like this one is more witch-like, and I decided that like, ooh yeah, that's actually a good point. So I took the broom, painted up the ends to match it up with more like in the movie. And I do have to position it a little bit. Like when I position this figure, I have to actually hold this all the way up because with the design of the broom, it's very long. It's very, very long. Very, very long on both ends. And so this is something that like definitely requires to position the arm and position it in such a way that the figure stays stable. While holding it in some way or form. So again, there could have been like a few changes with this one. I could have done the hair differently, maybe touched this up a little bit here and there. But overall, it was pretty simple to do. And this is Kiki. Moving on to some of our more detailed characters is Howl from Howl's Moving Castle. This one was definitely tricky to do, but Enya was probably my favorite from the showcase to customize. So the shirt was very basic. I just took like a blank white torso that I was saving for something else. I painted on like the shirt details. I even add a little touch-ups with the on the arms. Some basic like blue legs because he just wore some simple pants. And then like with this hairpiece, it was actually modified from an extra one that I had that I sculpted on like with some more clay and everything. And then this face decal I drew on like the blue eyes, which turned out pretty good. But the main thing that was very difficult is like, hang on, is it possible to remove his head? Yes, it is. The main difficult thing was the coat. This was, without a doubt, one of the weirdest things that I've made with a fabric, and was definitely a challenge to pull off. So when I was working on making Howl, one of the things that I wanted to add on was his coat, because I felt that it was like such a cool piece, and also like added on to the rest of his character. Turning this around, you can see that like, some more detailing on the back. I didn't worry about it too much because I figured that like with this thing on, it wouldn't be too bothersome. These little black lines indicate like the wrinkles, because he's wearing a very baggy shirt, so I wanted to add that on with this character. But anyways, back with the coat. I kept going back and forth of how to do the coat, because in the movie, he has the coat in many of his scenes. However, he doesn't wear it or like an actual coat. He wears it more like a cape, or like a cape, because it's resting on his shoulders. So for a long while, I was wondering, like, how am I gonna do this? And then I was pointing out the obvious that like I could just modify this thing with a cape piece, and have it more like a cape. And it was just like, that's actually good. I can't believe I didn't come up with that. So I first drew and cut out the coat as it was. I then painted on like the inside of it, and also the outsides to match it with the detailing and stuff. And then like with this fabric piece, like you can clearly see the terrible cutting piece. I cut this off like one of the spare cape pieces that I had. I honestly forgot what it was. I think it was just like a short or collar piece. So I cut that off into bits, and then like on the sides. Oh, whoopsies! For the sides on like the sleeves, I took like some Lego arms that I couldn't find like any minifigure torsos to fit on. So I cut off like the ball joints to connect into the torso, glued them onto the sides of the coat to match up of how it would be. It'd be like if this actually was on. It was on. I then went back and did like the detailing stuff to match up with the rest, and with like the rest of the character. The only regrets that I have with this one is that it doesn't fully close to really give off the idea that he's wearing it on his shoulders. Unfortunately, it kind of like spans out a little bit, but luckily, it does stay connected to this cape piece here, and this way, and that way, the whole figure together looks really, really well done. This was definitely the most challenging part of this character, because it's something I've never done before. Like just taking a coat piece and finding a way to make it that it matches up with the character without getting too overly complicated. Because one of my fear factors was of having to glue this piece together. Because that has happened in the past. That the original plan, there we go, was to have the cape on, have to like the coat or the cape on, and make it like removable. Unfortunately, there's been so many incidents in the past that is not a thing and possible. But I'm really, really glad that I was able to achieve it with this, with Howl, in this case, and this just turned out really, really amazing. So next up on our list is San from Princess Mononoke. Okay, so this one wasn't quite as difficult as Howl, but definitely had a couple of challenges to it. So first start off with the decals. This is the same face decal that I've used a lot before. This has become sort of like a go-to face decal that I've been using lately. And with the torso, this is just like blank white, and I just drew on the necklace. I did accidentally add in a couple of extra teeth by mistake, but that's okay. And with the face, I painted on like the red face paint she has in the movie. I honestly can't tell if it's supposed to be face paint or if it's actually blood, but either way, I had to include in those markings as well. The arms were pretty basic, just like painted on, like regular skin tone, and then add in like this detailing of these necklaces. This is, well, not necklaces, I guess the more appropriate term would be bracelets. My bad. Sorry. With this arm, it did add a couple of a little modification with it. It's just because for some reason when this arm was designed, there was like a hole that didn't pierce all the way through, but it was noticeable enough that I didn't want that, so I covered it up with some clay and painted over it. The legs were pretty basic. And basically, like, as you can see, some articulation. I just painted on, like, the leg portion, with the skin tone, and then painted on, like, her brown boots. And then with the waist piece, just, like, a simple, like, fabric skirt. Skirt that I drew, that I cut out and glued on here. And on here, I didn't feel the need to, like, make this thing fully disassemble and stuff. I just wanted it, like, all as one piece. The hairpiece, I won't lie, at first, I thought that's just like, this isn't good. I've begun to warm up to it. An alternative that I would have gone with would be like the same like hairpiece that I had used for my first Riku minifigure I don't even remember when I made it, but it was a long time ago. There you go. I would have gone with that one and added like the headband as well. And looking onto the back, there's not really a whole lot going on here. And on here, this is just like some extra fuzzy fabric. If you recall, like way back when I did like the first version of Connor's Jericho infiltration jacket, and even when I did Atreus from God of War, I used like this very fuzzy fabric. Connor for especially because it was like a test as to see how well this worked, and it was an awful idea. I'm very glad I ditched that to something else. But for San, I wanted to add in like the fur that she has. So my attempt was to take like a cape piece, cut off the back, glue it on, and then glue it onto the fabric piece, and then position it in a way that it all worked. Unfortunately, the glue solidified to the torso, so I can't even take this off. To get a better look at it. And painting on it was very difficult because I didn't want the white paints to get onto the rest of the figure, and even then, unfortunately, you could still see like some bits and pieces here and there. So that's an oops. And then finally, her dagger piece. I'm gonna be honest, I completely forgot she had one. It wasn't until I looked back at the movie and realized that, like, oh, that's right, she has other weapons. Like, I was originally just gonna give her a spear, but even then I couldn't find a spare one that I haven't just used for other parts. So I just decided to sculpt out her knife, or I guess we'd call this a dagger, and then drew on the detailing on both sides, and overall that was the basics of it. Yeah, again, I would have changed up the hairpiece, and I kind of wish that I can remove this fuzzy coat piece. I honestly forgot what it was, but overall, this was a pretty like simple / a little challenging design to do, and I like how it came out in the end. So next up on the list is the Baron from The Cat Returns. I'm gonna be honest before I continue, I've only seen the movie twice. It's been a very, very long time since I've seen. Actually, it's been a while since I've seen any of the movies. But when doing this character, it was very tricky detailing wise because it's such a small figure. I think the only time I've like actually really used like one of these characters was when I made that Bendy plushie for the Bendy background. But there's a difference between just doing something as basic as that to something as more detailed as this. So if you're wondering like where are his like arms, like you can see like the small tiny little stubs. Like this was from like back when Lego used to do board games or games. I don't think they do those anymore. I think it's a canceled product. So that's like one of the reasons like why he doesn't really have any arms. I just kept it as it was. But also is because it's still something I'm practicing. I'm still practicing of trying to sculpt out small miniature arms at that, like, I was working on Baby Groot in my free time. Anytime I was, like, trying to do, like, 3 versions of Groot, like Teen Groot, Adult Groot, and Baby Groot. But making small arms, especially hands, for that small of a body is super tedious and very, very difficult. So it's still something I'm practicing on. Not to mention the fact that like, I was about, like, halfway done with this character. I had already painted on the head. Then I realized that, like, oh, he doesn't have the arms or the tail. So that's an oops, because I don't remember what colors I used. Use yet again. And again, I need to develop a habit of writing them down so I know what I'm making. Anyways, sculpting the head, however, wasn't as difficult, because since I've done it before a couple of times, I had, like, a pretty straightforward idea what to do. I probably would make some couple of changes. I can't remember if I sanded off the top parts. I think I did. So that's like something to like try out in the future to make sure that goes well. The whiskers, they could have come out skinnier. They really could have come out skinnier. But again, with like, especially for the face parts, I don't remember like what sort of like coloration that I used to get the Baron's like mouthpiece there. But some detailing stuff, you could see like his mouth and his nose, as well as like the green cat eyes. This little pink here represents the insides of his cat ears. I did those mostly to the side, because a lot of his camera angles were a lot, and were very off to the side. Black boots and a gray suit. A suit. I honestly could not tell if it's supposed to be a white suit or a gray suit because as the lighting in a lot of photos that I saw kept going like, okay, it's supposed to be gray, no, it's supposed to be white, and it's just like I don't know what to do. So I just went with the first color that came to mind. Here, and then like he's got like his red undershirt and shirt, and then like the white, and then the little blue bow tie. I'm very grateful that I used the acrylic markers instead of regular paint, because with regular paints this would have been so tedious. It would have been a gigantic pain in the ass to get those tiny details on such a small character like this. And it would have been insane. So anyways, overall, I don't know if I do any other characters from The Cat Returns, because again, I've only seen it twice. The first time I barely remember it. The second time I remembered more. But either way, if I chose to like go back to The Cat Returns for more Ghibli characters, I probably would make some changes with him, like fix those whiskers, see if I can like try to sculpt the arms again, his tail, maybe even give him his top hat. But overall, that's so far the Cat Returns, and again, I apologize if this looks awful. And last but certainly not least on our list is Totoro from My Neighbor Totoro. This one definitely falls in under the category of like weird characters I've done, and this one technically doesn't really fully count as like a Lego minifigure because he's more of clay, less of Lego. He's got about like 3 bricks over in total. The rest of the character is just completely sculpted. So when making Totoro, one of the first things I did was sort of like sculpt around like the body, to like make him like attached to things. You could see like this brick piece down underneath, so here, and so that way like I can attach him on here, and get him like in these positions and stuff. I sculpted on like his little feet, and with the arms they do kind of look a little weird. But the idea is like with his arms he could like fold them like up and down, and not fold, bend, and then like I can rotate them like go up and down, side, left and right, all that stuff. So that way it could like give him like more movable positions. He's also like, as you can see, he's got his tail in the back. I keep forgetting he has a tail. I keep forgetting that, and until I look at the screenshots and be like, oh, that's right, he's got a tail. And then like with his ears on front. Oh no, the pedestal's coming loose. Whoopsies. The whiskers, I tried to keep them more spread out, but in the end they accidentally clumped up together, so that was an oops. The sort of like his overall belly, and his smile, I actually had to repaint it because the original smile, it was massive. It was very, very big, because in my head it was just like I remembered he had such a big smile, and I decided to keep that for Totoro because it's an iconic look for him. Unfortunately, I did it so massive it cut off on like the bottom, on like the top part of his belly area. So I had to repaint it, and then even like repaint the whole underbelly here because again I didn't remember what color I used, but I did do some changes. I was experimenting with like a new tool that I recently got. I finally got a new Dremel tool. It's very tiny compared to like the one I usually use, but it has multiple heads, and one of them that I used was like a polished stone, to sort of like smooth out all those like lumps and pieces here and there. You could still see like a little bit of like the cut marks of like the sanding process, but I was using it to try and even it all out together, and in the end, I think it came out pretty good. I think it came out pretty well. And as you can see, like on the other sides here, well, looking at the arms for a second, you can see like these black tally marks. I was originally going to sculpt out his claws, but I didn't know how those would turn out, so I just painted them on instead. The eyes are very simple, just like a couple of circles. Filled them in with white paint and then a black dot. Same thing with the nose, and with the mouth. the mouth, I did kept jumping back and forth of like, how is the mouth supposed to look? And when I finally like got a good photo of the mouth, there was like, oh, that's right, that's how it's supposed to look. Like, and then I also painted on like these little arrow marks that he has. I will admit they do come out a little faded, but I think the marker in that pin's beginning to run out. So I might need to get some more pens very soon. But overall, this came out pretty well. I will say that the one flaw, like aside from the whiskers, the one flaw is that like when you position him to in the brick piece, the arms are slightly off-centered, and I had like a weird Mandela effect there, because in my head it was just like, oh, they're perfectly on the sides. No, instead they were completely off-centered, and even with like the drill setting in the tool, I sanded out the inside of it, the inside of the sides, so that way the brick pieces could fit inside the figure in the body, and that way it wouldn't look very weird. It wouldn't look super weird or weird of having like these brick pieces just sticking out onto the sides, and then also like trying to add in clay to try and even it out. That was sort of like a major flaw in it, but that's okay, because part of like when I do these kinds of things is experimenting with like new techniques and ideas, and that way I can better prepare for the future. So aside from that one huge mishap, this was very fun of making this character, and I think Totoro came out pretty good overall. And overall, that does it for this episode of LEGO Arts. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Sorry the showcase took quite a while to do. In fact, this is long overdue. Like, again, I kept pushing this idea off because of other projects, and I did it so much so to the point that I nearly lost interest in doing it. Altogether. And then but then I wanted to go back and still do it. But then when looking at it more, I realized that like this showcase is going to be so massive. Oh, massive. I would have to divide it up into way more parts than intended. And I already have plans of what to do with the next two episodes. So I didn't want them like overlapping with one another. So if you want to see like more Studio Ghibli characters in the future, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. So that way I can start planning ahead for like future showcases. But overall, aside from like the changes I'd make with the characters here and there, this turned out pretty fun. It was both a little complicated as well as pretty simple to do at the same time. And I like those kinds of showcases. Like each one is different in its own weird form, and sometimes they can be very challenging. Sometimes they can be very simple. Overall, I really like it. So the next one probably shouldn't take quite as long because as I'm going to be showing like some projects I've done before. So be sure to keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. And then for the 100th, I'm really excited to show it to you guys. It's something that's been on my mind for quite a while, and it's finally done, and I'm really excited to show you guys. Hey guys, but overall, thank you guys so much for watching. If you would like to see more videos like this in the future, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications. It really helps us work on Let's Plays, LEGO projects, or mainly here helps and to have some fun. Sorry. So, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, hit that like button, comment button, which you take, share it to your friends, subscribe to me on YouTube, follow me on Twitch, and here's Howl for the road. Woo! Thank you guys, and I'll see you next time when the ice moon rises.